as the things that create mental toughness. And none of these are binary, like you have it or you don't. Instead, they exist on a continuum. It's how much or how little of each of these skills do you have. And this makes our behavior something malleable rather than an identity that we must be stuck for the rest of our lives. And so now that we have a basic understanding of these components, let's look at some real life examples. So if you had a 10 out of 10 mental toughness person, so this is one extreme. So you have somebody who's maxed out all stats in all four, perfectly mental toughness. How does this ideal person behave when something bad happens? They have huge tolerance, so almost nothing bothers them. They have endless fuse, right? And if something does bother them, the change is so small, it's almost unnoticeable. And as soon as it does happen, they recover almost immediately. This gap shrinks. And not only that, they use the experience to get better. So the end result is someone who just keeps improving. And so life happens for them, not to them. So what does it look like at the opposite extreme? So I'll show you what this looks like in practice. So for the ideal mental toughness person, it looks like this. So bad thing happens, but they get stronger. Bad thing happens, they have this fuse, almost imperceptible change in behavior, they adapt, they get better. And that happens over and over again. Now, in the opposite scenario, a 0 out of 10, the absolute weakest mental person you can imagine, you might know some of these people, it takes very little to throw them off their game. So a tiny inconvenience can send them spiraling. That's low mental tolerance. Then they dramatically change their behavior, low fortitude. Then they stay down for a long time, low resiliency. And not only that, when they finally stabilize, it's at a new lower baseline, low adaptability. And so you've met these people, I've met these people. This is the person that's broken up with, gains 50 pounds, loses their job, gets addicted to drugs, and then never recovers. Life happens to them, not for them. And of course, people in the real world, like you and I, usually sit somewhere in the middle of these two extremes. And so, as an example, you might have someone who has a long fuse, but when they snap, they really snap. This is someone who has high mental tolerance, but low fortitude. And if they stay upset for weeks, low resiliency. But maybe they come back to a baseline again, so they have medium adaptability. I'll give you a different example. And these are probably some people that you might know. Maybe it's you. So number 2, maybe they have low tolerance, high fortitude, high resilience, and normal adaptability. So that would mean that many things bother them, but they barely change their behavior. They get in a bad mood, cry, but then they quickly recover to baseline. So it'd be like low tolerance, they quickly get in a bad mood and cry, and then boom, they're back to baseline. That's what that would look like. Or it's somebody who has low tolerance, high fortitude, low resilience, and medium adaptability, which is they get in a funk easily, but then they stay there for a long time. But it doesn't ruin their lives. They just stay below baseline for months until they finally come back to normal. And so I give these examples because we all know people who fit these descriptions, and maybe you match one of them. And I see being able to describe the components of mental toughness as the first step to improving them in yourself and others. Just telling yourself or others to toughen up doesn't actually help anyone, but giving them clear instructions they can use to change their behavior over time can help them improve it. And if you can improve it, it no longer means mental toughness is a trait you're born with, but a skill you can develop. So, what to do about it? Mostly notes to self. If you want to develop mental toughness, according to this model, let me put it this way, you can rate yourself on each of these 4 attributes on the continuum. And from there, if you realize your large discrepancy between actual and ideal is just one of these 4 components, then you have a specific behavior that you can work on rather than just hoping and praying you mature. So here's an example of each of the behaviors that make up mental toughness and how you can adjust them. So let's say that you're like, I'm a low tolerance person. I got a really short fuse. Okay, then you need to practice not giving power to something to ruin your day. In other words, don't stop being upset. Just allow yourself to be more upset about letting something change your behavior than about the thing itself. For example, I can't believe that person said that thing to me, and rather than lashing out, you think, I don't want to give them that level of control over my behavior. I don't want to hand them the keys to my mental car. Keep your hands on the wheel. Be bigger than the pain. Simply put, just continue to behave as normal despite the fact that something bad happened. So that's a low tolerance example. So how about a low fortitude example? So if you ever heard somebody say like bad things happen in threes, right? Or insult leads to injury, or you let bad get to worse. Then you need to recognize as soon as your behavior begins to change, as soon as it begins to change, to not make even more bad decisions. You can avoid the slippery slope, the negative life snowball,